So I had O-scale drawings, architectural drawings of the house, which is still in Cape May. It is now a museum. And I disagree with Sheldon Cooper about almost everything. Do you know who Sheldon Cooper is?
I've heard of him.
Sheldon Cooper was the annoying guy in The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch that show too much.
And he is supposedly a model railroader, but it's clear to me he's not a model railroader, and neither are any of the staff writers on the show, because there was a great deal that they could have done for comic purposes about model railroads, and they didn't do it in the show. But Sheldon, who lives in Pasadena, says he does not go to the main hobby shop in Pasadena because they've gotten above themselves, which is not true. Right now there is one hobby shop in Pasadena, and it is the best one in Southern California, and they are not above themselves. And
I'm only going to do 20 more minutes because I want to make an hour. That's it.
Yeah, but so I disagree with Sheldon about that hobby shop, and which is one of the which I think is the best one in the Los Angeles area. And on the way to it's called the Original Whistle Stop, and it's on the east end of Colorado Boulevard. And on the way there, I would occasionally stop at Cliff's Books, which is a large used bookstore, also on Colorado Boulevard. And one day I stopped in there and went to the regional aisle. They had books. They had a section of the regional aisle of books about New England and the South and the Southwest, and 3 shelves on the Mid-Atlantic states, where I came across a book called The House in New Jersey, published by Rutgers University Press. And I got that, and the title page had a photograph of the Emlyn Physic House. Of all the places in New Jersey, that's what they put on the title page.
Very, very cool.
Yes. So there are these 3 books that have pictures of the Emlyn Physic House, and it is in Cape May. Mike Blumenthal and I drove there once so I could get some detailed photographs of the house, and we were looking for someone to ask directions. And I know enough to know that now you don't go to a gas station for directions. When I was a kid, guys who took auto shop in high school would then get a job in the local gas station. But now guys from foreign countries work in gas stations, so you don't go there to ask directions. But we drove down the street and we came to the train station and tourist center and figured that's the place to ask. We went in, the first thing I saw was a 5-foot wide photo enlargement of the Emlyn Physic House. So I knew this is the place to ask for directions, and they gave it to us, and we went, and I got the photographs, and I have the drawings. And when I have a permanent place to stay, that is big enough for me to get everything out of storage, I will start on that house. I'm also going to do the Bates house, where Norman lived with his mother. You remember Norman Bates?
You sound familiar, yeah.
The movie Psycho.
Yeah, see, the only thing is, a movie that I'm interested in, I don't remember all the actors. Movies that I don't know too much about, like a name pops it in the head, but you have to give me a sample like you just did right there.
Well, Norman Bates is the character living in the family house above the Bates Motel. And I want to do an O-scale model of the Bates house. And the Aurora Company did all sorts of plastic kits. They did a line of knights in armor. And they did the house from Psycho and the Addams Family house from the original TV series, and they did the house from Munsters Go Home, which I don't care for. And I got the kit for the Bates house, which is HO scale, but looking at the movie I realized they simplified it. It is not an exact model of the house from the movie. But I have the movie on tape, and when I get the frame grabber, I can get some close shots to do the house more accurately.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I will ever get around to it, but I've thought of doing a biography of the Bates house. When I was in high school, I joined the Baker Street Irregulars, the American fans of Sherlock Holmes. And they had a quiz about Sherlock Holmes, and I filled in the answers and sent it in. I didn't win first prize, but I did win a copy of the biography of 221B Baker Street, where Sherlock Holmes shared a flat with Dr. Watson. And later, I got a copy of the biography of Nero Wolfe's house. Nero Wolfe is a private detective whose movies you have not seen, because Rex Stout started writing the Nero Wolfe books in the early 1930s, and in the mid-30s he sold the film rights to two of them to Columbia Pictures. He was so dissatisfied with the results that for the rest of his life he never sold the film rights to any of them. And he lived to the mid-1970s. After that, the estate apparently felt different because they tried two different TV series based on the books. So if there are already two biographies of houses,
Thank you. He's a good boy. Oh, I could see that.
Oh, that was like close.
I wasn't doing it.
so if there are already biographies of two houses, It would not be an innovation to do
10 minutes left.
a biography of the Bates house. And it would start with Ed Gein's house. You know who Ed Gein was?
Remind me.
Ed Gein was the guy in the Midwest. They caught him eventually. They did Robert Bloch did the novel Psycho based on the Ed Gein case.
Oh, wow. It sounds like Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack or
Yeah. Well, this
John
one
Wolfe.
this one was solved eventually, and they did the movie Psycho, and then they did, I believe, 3 sequels.
Yep.
And so the book was a friend of mine
See my talkie?
was the editor of a magazine called Shaboom about popular culture. And they ran an article on the Ed Gein house, which is a very ordinary looking 19th century farmhouse. The house in the movie was designed to be spooky looking. So it's not a copy of the real one.
Mm-hmm.
But I would start with the Ed Gein house, and then the book, and then go and then research the production designer of Psycho did for the house in the movie.
If I don't have anything on the line with you and you're not fooling me,
Incidentally, the people who did the kit had a great deal of liberty because in the movie you only see 2 sides of the building, the front and the right side. They never showed the left side or the back, so the guy who did the kit was free to do whatever he wanted, plausibly, for the rest of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into a hobby shop in Burbank one day, and they had a big sale on kits, including the Psycho house. I already had one, but I bought it for a friend of mine who has an HO model railroad.
When I first came in, I thought I was gonna.
And he came up with something new. He put the kit together, and then he painted it black and white and leathered it in tones of gray so that it would look like the house in the black and white movie.
Hmm.
I feel sorry for him today.
Under 7 minutes left.
You too? Are you
Any
free?
questions?
Oh, boy, you're a big boy.
Not really. Not really. I mean, it's all interesting. I mean, it's good feedback. You know, you taught me some stuff here throughout the time.
Yeah.
History is very critical and important. You know what I mean?
Oh, do you know why Hitchcock did Psycho?
Nope.
Well,
No, they give him $1,000.
there is Francois Truffaut did a book-length interview with him called Hitchcock Truffaut. And Hitchcock explained that he had seen, there was a new company in the 1950s called American International, and they were reputedly doing feature films for under $1 million. And Hitchcock, who was a very successful director, decided as an experiment to see if it was possible to do a decent film by that time for under $1 million. And that's why he did Psycho. The film he did before then was North by Northwest, which was in color, and it had Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint and James Mason and a newcomer named Martin Landau. And it had location work in New York City, including the UN, and other places around the country. And it was the sort of film that a successful director might do. Psycho, on the other hand, starred Anthony Perkins, who
That sounds familiar.
was known, but I don't think he got paid as much as Cary Grant or James Mason. And it's in black and white and low budget. And Hitchcock wanted to see if he could do a film for under $1 million and make it good quality, and he did. But then he went back to what they allowed him to spend. But he did that, and I think it's interesting that Hitchcock, who was quite successful, even after he was 60, was still willing to experiment. Most successful directors by that age just continue doing what they have been doing well.
Yeah.
And
Less than 4 minutes.
And of course, Hitchcock also had the TV series at the time.
Yeah, what's that thing called?
Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Yeah.
And I have a question that is raised by that. Joan Harrison started off as his secretary, and then she became a screenwriter for him, and then the producer of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. There was a writer of thrillers named Eric Ambler, and among other things he wrote Journey into Fear and Top Copy, both of which were filmed, among others, I believe. And there was a collection of several of his early books that were reprinted in one volume with an introduction by Hitchcock. And the question I have is, Hitchcock and Eric Ambler seem to do the same sort of story. An ordinary guy finds himself in an extraordinary situation. He's not a private detective, he's not a policeman, just a regular guy, and he finds himself in this extraordinary situation.
Mm-hmm.
So Hitchcock did the introduction to the collection of Eric Ambler novels, and Joan Harrison married Eric Ambler, but Hitchcock never filmed any of his books.
Yes.
And I wonder why. And it's too late to ask either of them.
Well,
that show with, he was real smart.
Yeah.
I do that shit to Chris.
the reason name of Lucy is because
And Truffaut, who possibly hadn't seen the collection with Hitchcock's introduction, didn't ask him.
Sorry, so let me put Lou in there.
It feels like
Crazy.
it's kind of Monday where
Right?
like
It
April
fits on.
And
substantial.
Eric Ambler went into screenwriting for a while. But then, so that he wouldn't lose his touch, he went back to books.
Interesting.
I can't say I'm into
And I can't recall the names of some of the other films that he wrote, but one of them was about William Freeze Green, who was an inventor of the movie
1
camera.
minute.
Well, I can't think of anything else now. So maybe you could just use dead air or a theme song.
Oh, boy.
Not around here.
I find it interesting that in television they time everything pretty much down to the second.
Yep, 30 seconds.
I'll stop bugging you.
Say your name real quick. Just say your name.
Harry Narunsky.
Nowinski?
Narunsky.
Wow. Mine's Thomas Kobasinski. So, Polish. It was very nice having you, buying you lunch, and we'll make bigger plans on this later, for sure. We got big plans for this.
Yes.
So, I'm just going to say this. It's going to be an investment, because books are an investment.
Yes.
So, with that, we will end it, and we might do another podcast. That would be pretty cool. All right.